After an argument with her male best friend, she pulled me aside and said, "You need to apologize to him or we're done." I just looked at her. Then she added, "He was here before you, and he's more important than you." I didn't say a word, just got in my car and drove away. 3 days later, she was outside my apartment crying for forgiveness. I'm not a writer, so bear with me. I never thought I'd be posting here, but recent events have me questioning a lot, and I could use some outside perspective. For context, I'm 43M, a general contractor divorced 6 years ago. I have a teenage daughter who lives with her mom. I've been dating Allison, 39F, for just over a year. We met while I was renovating the coffee shop she manages. Classic situation. She'd bring me coffee, we'd chat during breaks, and eventually, I asked her out. We clicked right away. Similar sense of humor, both outdoorsy, both previously married, and neither of us in a rush to do that again. It's been good, comfortable, but not boring. At least, that's what I thought. Enter Kevin, 41M, Allison's best friend since college. According to her, they briefly dated sophomore year, decided they were better off as friends, and have been inseparable ever since. He was the man of honor at her wedding, helped her through her divorce, and is basically a constant in her life. I've met Kevin plenty of times over the past year, usually in group settings like game nights, barbecues, and birthdays. He's always been fine. Not especially friendly, but not openly hostile either, just watchful. Like he's evaluating whether I'm good enough for Allison. I've made an effort to get to know him, but he keeps a polite distance. Here's where things went sideways. Last weekend, Allison hosted a dinner party at her place. Nothing fancy, just a few friends and steaks on the grill. I got there early to help set up. Kevin was already there, standing in Allison's kitchen like he owned it, mixing drinks and offering cooking advice. I didn't think much of it. They're close, it happens. The evening started off well. Good food, good conversation. After dinner, we moved out to the back deck. Someone brought up politics, always a mistake, and Kevin and I realized we're on opposite sides. Not extreme, just different viewpoints. The discussion stayed civil, but it was clear we didn't agree. I wasn't being aggressive, just sharing my perspective when asked, but with every point I made, Kevin would glance at Allison like he expected her to step in and correct me. When she didn't, his tone became sharper, more dismissive. Finally, after one particularly condescending remark, I said, "Look, man, we can disagree without the attitude. We're all adults here. You'd think I'd slapped him." His face went red and he turned to Allison. "Are you going to let him talk to me like that?" Before she could respond, I said, "I'm talking to you, not her, and I'm just asking for basic respect." Kevin stood up, drink in hand. "You don't know what the hell you're talking about." "Never have." Allison knows it too. She's just too nice to say it. I looked at Allison expecting her to diffuse things or at least not take sides. Instead, she stared at Kevin with a worried expression, like he was about to explode. "Kevin, he didn't mean anything by it," she said, her tone placating. "The hell I didn't," I replied. "I meant exactly what I said. We can disagree without being disrespectful." The deck went silent. The other guests looked uncomfortable. Kevin set his drink down with exaggerated care. "I think I'm going to head out. Call me later, Al." Then he walked through the house and left, slamming the front door. Allison immediately followed him inside. I could hear them talking quietly, but couldn't make out what they were saying. When she came back, she was visibly upset. "What was that about?" I asked as she sat down. "Not now," she muttered, then forced a smile for the remaining guests. The rest of the night was tense. After everyone left, I started helping clean up. That's when Allison pulled me into the kitchen. Arms crossed. "You need to apologize to Kevin," she said without preamble. I nearly dropped the plates I was holding. "Excuse me, you embarrassed him in front of everyone. You need to apologize." I set the plates down carefully. "Allison, he was being condescending and dismissive. If anyone owes an apology, it's him." She shook her head. "You don't understand. Kevin doesn't handle conflict well. He feels attacked. And I feel disrespected," I said. "Has it occurred to you that your best friend might not like your boyfriend very much?" "That's not true," she said, though her eyes shifted away. "He's just protective." "Protective? I'm not a threat to you. And even if I were, you're a grown woman who can make her own decisions." She shifted uncomfortably. "Look, This is simple. You need to apologize to him, or we are done. I stared at her, trying to process what she'd just said. You're giving me an ultimatum over a disagreement with your friend. That's when she dropped the bomb that changed everything. He was here before you, and he's more important than you. The words hung in the air between us. It felt like a punch to the gut, not just because of what she said, but because of how matter-of-factly she said it, like it was obvious. Like I should have known all along that I was second place. I didn't raise my voice or argue. I just looked at her for a long moment, taking in the reality of where I stood in her life. Then I grabbed my keys from the counter, walked out to my truck, and drove away. She called after me, but I didn't look back. By the time I got home, my phone was already buzzing with texts from Allison. Where did you go? We need to talk about this. You're overreacting. Please come back so we can discuss this like adults. I turned my phone off and went to bed. I slept surprisingly well for someone whose relationship had just imploded. The next morning, I had a dozen missed calls and more texts. I read them but didn't respond. I went to work and focused on a bathroom remodel that needed my attention. Came home, watched a game, ordered pizza. Life goes on. By day 3, the calls had slowed, but the texts had grown more desperate. I wasn't ignoring her out of spite. I just needed time to think, to process what had happened and what it meant. That evening, there was a knock at my door. I looked through the peephole and saw Allison standing there, eyes red-rimmed, clutching her purse like a life preserver. I considered not answering, but that felt cowardly. And whatever else I am, I'm not a coward. So I opened the door, but stayed in the doorway. "Can I come in?" she asked, her voice small. "I don't think that's a good idea, please. I need to explain." I hesitated, then stepped aside. She walked in and sat on my couch, the same spot where we'd watched countless movies, where she'd fallen asleep on my shoulder, where we'd made love on lazy Sunday afternoons. Now she looked like a stranger. "I'm sorry," she began. What I said was horrible. I didn't mean it. "Yes, you did," I replied evenly. "That's why it hurt so much, because you meant it." She started crying then, quiet tears cutting through her makeup. "I've known him so long. He's like family. I can't lose him. And I understand that. What I don't understand is why keeping him means losing me. Why it can't be both. It can be," she insisted. "I was just upset. You two are the most important men in my life." I sat down across from her, not on the couch but in the armchair, creating distance. "No, I'm not. You made that very clear. And that's okay, Allison. You're allowed to prioritize whoever you want in your life. But so am I. And I can't be with someone who sees me as disposable." "You're not disposable," she cried. "I love you. Do you, or do you love how I fit into your life when Kevin approves? Because the moment I disrupted that balance, you were ready to throw me away." She had no answer. "Has he always disliked me?" I asked. "Or just since things got serious between us?" She looked down at her hands. "He worries you'll hurt me like my ex did. So, he appointed himself your permanent guardian, and you let him." "It's not like that," she protested weakly. "Isn't it? Be honest, Allison. Has he ever liked anyone you've dated?" The silence was my answer. "I deserve better than this," I said finally. "And so do you, by the way. A real friendship wouldn't hold you hostage. A real friend would want you to be happy, even if that meant sharing your attention." She cried harder then. She told me she'd had a huge fight with Kevin after I left, that she'd realized things about their friendship that had been bothering her subconsciously for years. That she wanted another chance with me. Part of me wanted to give in, to hold her and say we'd figure it out. But a larger part, the part that remembered, her cold statement about who mattered more, held firm. "I think we need some time apart," I said. "I need to decide if I can be in a relationship where I'll always be second best, and you need to decide if you're ready for a relationship where you aren't constantly deferring to someone else's judgment." She left reluctantly after getting me to promise I would at least think about giving us another chance. I said I would, and I have been. It's been 5 days now. Allison has texted every day, not pressuring, just checking in. Apparently Kevin is furious with her for choosing me over him, even though she hasn't actually done that. Just questioning their dynamic was enough to trigger a meltdown on this part. Her sister called me yesterday. She said she's been trying to tell Allison for years that her relationship with Kevin isn't healthy, that he doesn't want to be with her romantically, but can't stand seeing her with anyone else. That this is a pattern they've all watched repeat with every boyfriend since college. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Part of me loves her and thinks maybe we could work through this. Another part knows that old patterns are hard to break, and she's had 20 years to normalize this dynamic. For now, I'm taking it one day at a time, getting some clarity on my own, reminding myself that I'd rather be alone than be someone's second choice. I'll update if anything significant changes. Thanks for reading this far. Edit. Woke up to hundreds of comments. Thanks for the support and advice, everyone. To answer some common questions. 1. No, I don't think Kevin and Allison are sleeping together. This isn't about sex, it's about control. 2. Some of you said I abandoned her at the dinner party. I left after everyone else had gone, and after she made it clear where I stood in her priorities. I didn't strand her or cause a scene. 3. Few have asked if there were warning signs I missed. Looking back, yes. Kevin texted her constantly, often while we were together, and she always replied immediately. He had opinions on everything, from which restaurants we should try to, whether I was right for her. And there was the time he crashed our weekend getaway because he happened to be in the area, 2 hours from where he lives. 4. To those suggesting I'm being too hard on her, maybe. But I've already been in one relationship where I wasn't a priority, my marriage. It took years of therapy to recognize my worth after that. I'm not going through that again. 5. And to clarify, we never lived together. Allison has her own apartment across town, which is why she showed up at my door instead of already being there. We'd talked about moving in together eventually, but we weren't there yet. Update 10 days later. Allison and I met for coffee yesterday. Neutral Ground, a downtown place neither of us usually goes to. She looked tired, determined. She spoke first, saying she'd done a lot of thinking and had some realizations about her friendship with Kevin. Apparently, after our argument, she started noticing things. How he subtly dictated her choices, how he created crises whenever she focused on other relationships, how he'd conditioned her to prioritize his feelings above everyone else's, including her own. She showed me texts he sent after their fight, manipulative, guilt-tripping messages about how she was throwing away 2 decades of friendship and choosing some contractor over family. Reading them made my skin crawl. This wasn't a friendship. It was emotional hostage-taking. The most telling part was when she admitted Kevin had hated every man she'd ever dated, had actively sabotaged several relationships, and had even told her ex-husband intimate details about her past specifically to create Ms. between them. And she had always forgiven him, always maintained the friendship, always put him first. I don't want to live like that anymore, she told me. I've already talked to a therapist. My first appointment is next week. I told her I was proud of her for recognizing the unhealthy dynamic, but that I needed to protect myself too. We agreed to take things very slowly, casual dates, no pressure, while she works through her issues with professional help. Kevin, predictably, escalated. When cutting her off emotionally didn't work, he switched tactics, showing up at her workplace, sending flowers, acting like the perfect friend who just wants her happiness. Classic manipulation. To her credit, Allison has maintained firm boundaries. She told him they needed space and that their friendship would have to change fundamentally if it were to continue at all. I'm cautiously optimistic, but proceeding with my eyes open. Some of you told me to run, and I understand that perspective. But I've seen how hard she's working to break free from this dysfunctional dynamic, and that matters. We'll update again when there's more to share. Update 1 month later. Things have progressed in unexpected ways. Allison has been consistent with therapy and has held her boundaries with Kevin, who responded by alternating between love bombing and rage. Classic abuser behavior. The breaking point came last week when he showed up drunk at her apartment, demanding to be let in, and yelling that I had brainwashed her. She called the police. They removed him, and she filed a restraining order the next day. It was painful for her, but also clarifying. She said it felt like finally seeing the full picture after years of only seeing scattered pieces. She's been reconnecting with friends she drifted away from during Kevin's influence. His possessiveness had gradually isolated her over time. As for us, we are dating again, slowly. I've attended a therapy session with her to better understand how to support her without overstepping. Her therapist explained that breaking free from a codependent relationship is like deprogramming from a cult. It takes time and patience. Kevin has apparently shifted to trying to turn mutual friends against her, with limited success. Most people have seen his true nature, especially those who witnessed his behavior firsthand. A few close friends have even reached out to apologize for not speaking up sooner. That said, some mutual acquaintances have taken his side, believing his version of events. Allison says that's been difficult, but also revealing. It's shown her who her real friends are. Kevin's workplace, thankfully different from Allison's, has also become involved after he repeatedly tried contacting her through business email. Her HR department documented everything and helped her set professional boundaries, including blocking his email domain and notifying front desk security about the restraining order. I'm impressed by Allison's strength through all of this. Recognizing and confronting toxic patterns isn't easy, especially ones that have been in place for years. Whether or not our relationship lasts, I'm grateful we've both learned important lessons about boundaries and self-respect. For those who said I should have just apologized to keep the peace, this was never about politics or a minor disagreement. It was about a fundamental imbalance in how she valued our relationship versus her unhealthy attachment to Kevin. Sometimes walking away is the only way to break the spell. Final update: 6 months later, Allison and I are still together, and things are better than they've ever been. She's continued therapy, which has helped her recognize and address patterns beyond just her relationship with Kevin. The restraining order has expired, but Kevin has largely stayed away. He's apparently been trying to rewrite history among their mutual friends, painting himself as the victim who was replaced. Not many are buying it, those who saw his behavior at the dinner party and afterward have a clear understanding of what really happened. Allison has apologized multiple times for what she said that night, but I've told her that actions matter more than words, and her actions have consistently shown she's committed to building a healthy relationship based on mutual respect and proper boundaries. We're moving in together next month. Taking this step now feels right in a way it wouldn't have 6 months ago. We've had our share of disagreements since that night, but they're different now. We talk things through as equals without outside interference. To the person who said, "You can't compete with history," you're right. But that's not what this was about. It was about realizing that history isn't necessarily healthy just because it's familiar. Sometimes the longest relationships in our lives are also the most damaging. Thank you to everyone who offered advice and support during a difficult time. Sometimes standing your ground and knowing your worth is the best form of self-care, and sometimes it gives others the courage to stand their ground as well.